What's up, YouTube? What's going on? It's Ken Solo. My first ever YouTube video, so forgive me if I'm a little nervous, but here we go. We're going to give it a shot. So this is basically a corresponding to the Spotify podcast I just created last week that discusses how to become an Army officer with no military experience. It's pretty straightforward. So without further ado, let's get started. Number one, you have to have a college degree from any accredited university within the U.S. Number two, you have to have a clean bill of health and no criminal history. If you have a medical condition or any kind of run-ins with the law, consult your recruiter because a waiver may be possible depending on what the condition is and what run-ins you've had. Number three, go to your nearest Army recruiting center or station and request to enlist as an 09 Sierra, which is an officer candidate. Now, some recruiters don't know what that is. Maybe that's because they just got out of recruiting school. It's totally fine as long as you explain to them that you want to enlist as an officer candidate, not just an enlisted. Now, it's totally cool if you want to go the enlisted route first and then transition to officer later. It's completely possible. There are multiple avenues of approach to do this. And if you'd like, I can dedicate an episode to discussing what those avenues of approach are. Just let me know in the comments below. But there are other recruiters that simply just don't want to do the paperwork, and that's cool too, but that means you got to find another recruiter that knows what they're doing because a officer packet is a little bit different than an enlisted packet, so just be aware of that. All right, number four, you have to score a 50 or higher on the ASVAB and no less than a 110 GT score. Number five, you got to complete the 09 Sierra packet, so make sure that all your information is up to date and it's good to go. Two things that I want to mention regarding that packet. Number one, you're going to have a statement of purpose or an essay that discusses why you want to join, or the reason, rather, for you joining the Army as an officer. Number two, you need to provide at least 3 to 5 letters of recommendation. So why those two things are important is because depending on the times, you may have to interview in front of a 3 to 5 officer panel, in which you're going to have to basically argue your why, meaning you're going to have to discuss and try to persuade this panel to give you a thumbs up or a go for your packet. Now, just a few nuggets of wisdom here. If you do have to interview in front of a board, please make sure your answers or responses are confident, concise, and respectful. If it's a male addressing you, it's sir. If it's a female, it's ma'am. So adhering to these small customs and courtesies make a great first impression. You do not want to have the opposite effect on the panel. If you do, that could cause them to vote no and immediately disqualify you from going into the Army as an officer. So please just act like the young professional that you are. On that note, please make sure that you dress appropriately. I understand some people like to wear baggy pants or baggy clothes or whatever. That's cool. But that's definitely not acceptable in uniform. So just make sure that you are dressed for the part. Honestly, I would go in with a suit and tie. So once you pass the board and you're good to go, then you got to go to the MEPS, which is Military Entrance Processing Station. You're going to go there to get your physical done, which is basically doctors are going to check you out. And then after that, you pass the physical, which if you have a clean bill of health, you definitely will. You're then going to contract as an 09 Sierra. So what's cool is if you're going in as an officer candidate, you automatically get bumped to an E4. So that's cool. You do get a little bit of a pay bump there. It's definitely not as much as an officer makes, but it's better than E1, or a fuzzy, as we call them. All right, so once you pass the MEPS, get your contract done, you are then going to prepare for boot camp. So I had 6 months between when I contracted and when I went off to boot camp, and I took those 6 months to get in the best shape of my life. I changed my dietary habits. I went to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. I lifted weights. Then after weights, I immediately ran at least 2 to 3 miles after lifting weights. Number 8, spend time with your loved ones before basic training. Number 9, no matter whether you serve 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. So if you're one of those people that are considering joining, and you're kind of on the fence, you're not really sure, I would just say fucking do it. Go do it. I gave you permission to do it. Go and do not look back. It was the best decision I ever made. Before I left, I was a high school teacher. I was teaching for about 3.5 years. And although it was fulfilling in certain ways, it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life for the next 20 years. And so that's when I decided to just make a radical change and join the military. Um, and it's funny because the first time I came back from leave and I went back to my hometown, I saw my friends and my family, I was a completely different person. I was much more confident. I was much stronger. I was literally in the best shape of my life, and I was much more resilient. To me, you can't put a price tag on that. Coming from I was really focused on other people's opinions of me and what they thought of me, and what expectations they had for my life, and I wasn't standing on my own 2 feet. But the moment I left and had to wade through the difficulty of basic training, and then officer school, and then Bullock, which we'll get to later, it really does make you a much stronger person mentally. And like I said, you can't put a price tag on that. You can't buy that in any store. You just can't. It's only something that you're going to gain by pushing through the adversity and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and succeeding, whether it takes 1 try, 2 tries, or 3 tries. So like I said, if you're on the fence, I say go for it, man. Just freaking do it. Do it and don't look back. Like I said, what's 3 years? What's 4 years? But if it pushes you to become a person that you've never thought you would be in your life, it's priceless.